Hey everybody, this is going to be my second video. It's kind of a follow-up from the last video. The last video I did, it was about Obama's new student loan program and how the numbers just don't crunch together right. Some of you guys called me out on the fact that after 20 years, your loan will be forgiven. So I want to go ahead and address this program a little bit more. I didn't want to go so much into detail because once you get super into detail about some financial topics, it gets kind of overwhelming and the normal consumer kind of stops listening. For me, it's kind of like, any other hobby. I love talking about that stuff and learning more about it, but for you, you might just not watch the rest of the video. So anyways, I'm going to crunch a little bit more numbers for you guys, try to break it down and make it super simple. Before I do that though, I want to go ahead and talk about student loans in general and what's really the issue here. It's not necessarily Obama's program that's the issue. Student loans are being given to 18-year-olds who have very little direction, signing for a car a year, sometimes a car a semester if you think about it that way. So if you're going to a private school, let's just say that you signed up to pay off 8 cars in a matter of 4 years and you don't even get to sell them, When it comes to student loans, there is no asset that comes along with purchasing your education. The only asset that you really have, if you even want to call it that, is your potential job. Nobody else is going to do this for you. You need to make sure that you're signing up for an amount of student loans that is relative to the amount of money that you're going to make in the field that you're going into. Don't go out and spend $100,000 or more on a potential career that's only going to make you a little bit more than if you didn't have a degree. Take a little bit longer to decide whether you're going to go to college and what you're going to go to college for. It's all about making responsible decisions on your part. It's very easy to offer you money and make you pay it back, really. Okay, so going back to Obama's new student loan program, I just want to bring up the concept that the government is not the most generous lender, they are actually the most broke. So when you are making a decision to get student loans, you're going to do it responsibly and intend to pay it back. If you're doing any of these student loan programs where you have a longer amount of time to pay off your student loans, you have to realize that it will cost you more in the long run to be paying these student loans off over an extended period of time. One thing that I didn't talk about in the first video was the fact that after 240 payments, whatever is left over will be forgiven. In our example, the one that the White House sent to us, the same guy, he's making $20,000 a year, he's paying $200 a month, the 10% of his income, and his student loans were $75,000. When we put that into the what's missing calculator, we found out that the actual student loan payments needed to be $425 a month just to cover the interest alone. What does that mean? That means that $225 a month of interest is accumulating because remember we talked about the student loans being on a daily compounding interest schedule. If you were to make 240 payments over the next 20 years and then have the rest forgiven, which sounds gracious as it's being called forgiveness. However, at that point you will have already paid $237,000 in student loan. That's already 3 times as much as you originally agreed to pay for school. So when you're saying forgiveness, I mean, you're still paying a lot of money to be forgiven the additional interest that accrued, right? Let's just say that equals about $2,700 a year. We put all of this stuff into a calculator and realize that if you're accumulating debt, what amount is really going to be forgiven? So let's say that this individual continues to make that $20,000 a year, so he's always paying the $200 for the next 20 years towards his student loans and accumulating the additional $225 in interest every month, meaning that his debt will continue to grow. He will never reduce his debt by any amount, it will only grow. At the 20th year, he'll still have $152,000 that will need to be forgiven. At that point, what happens when the money is forgiven? When you go to the financialaid.gov, it gives you the provisions on that 20-year forgiveness, and it says that that amount will be added to your gross income at the end of the year, on the year that it's forgiven, because you should have paid it, but you didn't pay it, so it is now considered income to you, which actually sucks. If that happens to this guy who's making $20,000 a year, you add the $150,000 that's going to be forgiven of his student loans to the $20,000 that he makes every year, his total annual gross income for that year is $170,000, which bumps him up to the highest tax bracket. At that point, he'll have to owe $30,000 to the IRS in taxes rather than owing student loans anymore. An IRS debt immediately shows up as a tax lien on your credit report, and then they'll continue to take your tax returns every year until that's paid off. It can stop you from getting a home loan and all these other things. It also accrues interest when it's not paid back, and penalties and stuff. I don't know that that's really forgiveness, and I really do caution you guys in considering there really is no forgiveness in these situations. So like I said, the most important thing is to make sure that you're making a responsible decision about how much you're actually borrowing, rather than borrowing just because you feel like that's what you have to do. There are plenty of resources out there to get free money. So that's it for today. If you have any questions or you have other topics that you want me to talk about, please email me or leave some messages below, and I will make sure to get to those as soon as I can.